Welcome back, Samurai and Shigenja, to the Ludomancer's Vault, where we look at old and out-of-print games, and we are continuing to concentrate on AEG's Clan War, because we are still the only channel on the internet that covers Clan War in video. I really hope someone else will join the fray, someone else who's interested in Legend of the Five Rings. Some folks are interested in Clan War First Edition. I'd love to see some other content, or maybe people could put out some battle reports. Join the club. We would love to have you. Today we're going to continue our army review, and we are going to go to the Scorpion. And looking at the number of models on the table here, I apparently have a much bigger Scorpion collection than I realized. But they are a pretty cool army, and don't always get, I think, the attention that they deserve. So I think we'll take some time today. They don't have a huge army list. There's probably a smaller number of units and personalities than average. So we will take a little more time to go a little more in depth with them. And I'll also do a video showcasing the miniatures with some close-ups for those of you who like looking at the figures more than discussing the game mechanics. That said, let's jump on in. Who are the Scorpion Clan? Well, as I've always said, there are a lot of videos out there that have lore and history of the Legend of the Five Rings universe and explain who the clans are. So mine are just thumbnail sketches, but I'm going to tell you the Scorpion Clan have a very interesting history. They are the left hand of the Emperor, and they are guardians of the Empire who serve as the Emperor's special police, secret spy force, and they are known to trade in secrets and espionage. And they are affiliated with ninja and other underhanded techniques. They are known as poisoners. They are generally distrusted and considered to be liars and lacking in honor. Although the true story is, if you listen to the Scorpion anyway, that they are in fact very honorable and do what has to be done to protect the Empire and serve the Emperor and do the kinds of things that other clans are not willing or able to do. So that, in short, is who the Scorpion Clan is. They are one of the smaller clans. They don't have a huge territory to draw from for resources. In the storyline, they are deprived of all their lands at one point, and so they actually end up having no land for a while, and then they eventually earn it back. But they're located sort of in the central northwest, I want to say, of Rokugan, and they don't generally field very large armies, but they have been involved in a number of wars. They usually try to win them, I think, off the battlefield. So, why would you want to play the Scorpion? On the tabletop, they are an interesting army to play. They are very different from the norm. They have a lot of dirty tricks, poison, they have blackmail, they have ninja abilities that other clans don't have. So they're very unique in that regard. And if you kind of like the sneaky, tricky kind of army, then this would be a good army for you. You know, a big reason, as always, to play the Scorpion is because they have the coolest chick in all of Rokugan, Bayushi Shu, who is extremely clever and is very skilled at political maneuvers, and she manages to survive all kinds of travails and tribulations to eventually become one of the Seven Thunders and save the Empire from the evil Fu Lang. And in the storyline, she goes through quite an arc of being kind of victimized by the fall of the Scorpion to becoming kind of really a bad guy and helping bad things to come about, and then changing her mind and becoming a hero again. So Bayushi Shu is very cool. A lot of iconic art of her. Really a beloved character in the setting. So I'm going to just say she's one of the reasons you want to play it. And then the other thing with the Scorpion is that they're kind of like bad guys, but they're also sort of misunderstood anti-heroes. So if you like to be bad, but not too bad, you don't want to be the Shadowlands, out to just destroy all of humanity. But you want to be edgy, you want to be different, you want people to keep guessing at your motives. The Scorpion clan is probably for you. So let's talk about their personalities. I'm going to kind of start off just by talking about some of the highlights in terms of how you want to play them. There are not too many different personalities, and but they are very important in this army because your average troops are not super impressive, and so you're really required to add some good personalities to your army if you want to be effective on the tabletop. And your primary combo that you're going to have is of these two characters, Bayushi Kachiko and Bayushi Aramoro. Okay, and what they can do is they can work together to really ruin your opponent's day in terms of their card play. So Bayushi Aramoro, let's talk about him for a minute. He's first of all a pretty solid character all around. He's 218 points, +2/+2 for hit and damage. He has 2 strikes, a lot of good abilities, and the big selling point for him, though, is that first of all, he lets you add blackmail cards, and we'll talk about blackmail later, to your tactical deck. So you can blackmail enemy personalities, which can make them ineffective. He also has a very important ability. You can discard a card as the Scorpion player to target another player. You name a tactical card and a location, either their hand or attached to a specified personality. If the target player has 1 or more copies of the card in the selected location, 1 copy is immediately discarded. Okay, so this is a pretty good ability already. So if you're hoping to stop your opponent from charging and you think they may have a charge card in their hand, you could say, okay, I'm going to discard some card I don't want. I'm going to trigger Bayushi Aramoro's ability. And if you have a charge card in your hand, discard it. Or if you have a card attached to this unit, if it's the charge card, because that's a unit that you always want to charge with, I'm guessing you have it there, I want you to discard it. And if they have it, it's gone. Now, that's really good, but it's a bit risky because you don't know what your opponent has. And when I first played Bayushi Aramoro, I didn't combine him with Kachiko, and I would guess. And my opponents sometimes didn't have what I thought they might have in their hand, and they would tell me to go fish. So it didn't really amount to much. Well, add that to the mix, Bayushi Kachiko. Now, she's very cheap, 85 points, and she's not going to do too much in your army. She's going to be an associated personality. She's a courtier. She doesn't really fight. She can negate your honor losses. That doesn't come up too often for the Scorpion, but it's something she could do. And she can add blackmail cards to your deck. And she can also become spent to negate a duel. So a couple of little interesting things with her. But her most attractive ability is target a player and name a location in their hand or a specific personality, attached to a specific personality. Kachiko's player may look at all the tactical cards in the specified location. So the way you play this is in the special orders, special actions phase, you first trigger Kachiko's ability and you say, show me what's in your hand. They show you what's in their hand. You pick, in your mind, the best card or the card that you least want to see played that turn. And you then, when it's your next turn, to take a special action or order, use Bayushi Aramoro's ability to discard that card out of their hand. So if you're expecting some close combat and you know the opponent's morale's not great, you may use Kachiko to look at their hand. They have a Grim Determination that would automatically pass the morale check. Okay, well, now Aramoro is you're going to toss a card you don't care about and you're going to get rid of their best card, Grim Determination. This is an extremely powerful combo in this game. There's not a lot of cards drawn in the average game. You might go through 15, 18 cards. And every turn, if you use that combo every turn, you're taking the best card from your opponent just about every time. Maybe in Magic the Gathering terms, this is like the blue deck. It's like a counterspell. They're just going to say, no, let me see what you got, because we're the Scorpion and we know all your secrets. And Kachiko is the master or mistress of manipulation and political maneuvers, and you're not gonna be able to do that. We saw it coming. This is so good that you kind of don't want to leave home without it with the Scorpion army. And I'm not experienced enough with this army to know if there are many other really effective builds. So at this point, and I don't play Legend of the Five Rings every week or anything, if I'm going to bust out the Scorpion, I probably want that combo. It's really amazing. So in terms of other personalities, I shouldn't make him go last because he's technically the daimyo. Bayushi Shu, who in the game is undead. So the game storyline starts after the living Bayushi Shu, who is kind of shown to be like super cool, humble, amazing warrior, great strategist. This is his living version. They created a miniature of, I believe, just because of like popular demand. So before all the bad things happen to him in the storyline, he's just a really awesome looking samurai. There's no official rules for him in the game, unfortunately. He later falls to the darkness and becomes an undead puppet of Fu Lang. But you can play him in the game. So another possible build is to build your army around him. And he's expensive at 345 points. So if you're playing a 2,000 point game, you know, he's pushing in at, you know, close to 400 points. And it's gonna be like 1/5 your army. If you give him any items, he'll get to 1/5. He causes fear 2. He himself is fearless, has amazing stats, 2 strikes, +2/+2 to hit. He can join any Scorpion unit. He can only serve in Scorpion or Shadowlands armies, so nobody else could draft him in. I don't know what, you wouldn't want to, you know, draft by undead Shoju into your army if you're anybody else. He can add to the fear value of the unit that he joins, and if the unit he joins doesn't cause fear, then they're going to cause fear 0, and all Scorpion units within 16 inches of him become fearless. So he's a pretty strong linchpin character. I haven't played with him much. As I said, he costs so many points that you probably want to build around him, and maybe as a thematic kind of thing, you might take some Shadowlands allies or something. But yeah, he's an interesting option. And it's unfortunate that he looks so ugly in that incarnation, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go briefly through the other characters and then talk about a couple more interesting examples. The Scorpion leadership packages, they basically are, you know, as normal, but they have defense, which is useful, and they have Stalwart Defender at the Chewy level, Battle 1, Leadership 2, Defense 3 at the Gunso level. Pretty useful. You always want to have a leadership package for the leadership. Your morale in the Scorpion army is not bad. It's not fantastic. And a little more defense is always helpful. Bayushi Aramoro, we've already gone over. There is an experienced version of him. I'm not sure it's so great. He has an extra ability that allows you to basically recycle a tactical card from your deck and put it back into your hand, but it makes him spent, which is a heavy cost in this game, so I'm not super impressed by it. Bayushi Togai, he is a guy who gives you free poison weapons. 1 poison weapons card at no cost. Poison weapons give you, I believe it is a +2/+2 to your hidden damage, so that can be a nice surprise. You have to do that in the special orders phase to trigger your poison. There's a Bayushi Tomaru. He's got the Naginata. He can become spent to give an enemy unit a -2 to their morale for a test. -2 modifier to any test. For morale tests, excuse me. And he can negate Grim Determination. That's pretty cool, although it does spend him. He's not too expensive, 160 points, 2 strikes, +2/+2, defense 4. He's pretty solid character. Bayushi Yokuan, he's your Scorpion, like ninja master guy. And so he can lead ninja units, and he comes with a blowgun that shoots poison darts. And it allows you, if you score a hit, to put a wound on a personality in a unit. Unless you can combine that with some other effects that allow you to pick out personalities, like maybe the arrow knows the way or something. Probably not going to get too much mileage out of that. But he does give ninja units +2 morale, so he would be good to lead a unit of shadow assassins if you wanted to run them as like a combat unit. For Shugenja, there's Soshi Bantaro. I haven't messed with him too much. 165 points, and he can use Maho spells, which tend to be very destructive. So I guess that would theme well with Undead Shoju, that you have this bad guy, Soshi Bantaro. Not appearing in this list, by the way, is if you know the lore, Yogo Junzo, who's probably the most infamous Scorpion Shugenja, who kind of led them down the primrose path of betrayal. He became a extremely powerful Shadowlands character, and he's in the Shadowlands army list. Bantaro can redirect a spell effect onto himself or his unit off of other people. And he can also make resistance tests while spent. So he seems like a pretty strong, if you're going to go for a powerful magic user, he's a good choice. Bayushi Hisa. Bayushi Hisa, I have here a custom 3D sculpt that my good friend Kyle sculpted for me. And this is based off of Hisa's card art from the original edition of Legend of the Five Rings. Bayushi Hisa's whole shtick is that he goes and stirs up the peasants. So you see I have him with a unit of peasants. These are also 3D printed. And he gives you a reduction in their cost of 2 koku per model. So you kind of take him for the lulz, I guess, because those, if you recruit unaligned troops, you can reduce their cost by 2. Now, I guess that could be good if you want to play him straight and not just for kicks. You could take medium infantry or something like that, and he'll reduce their cost. But what's really funny is you can find peasants like he has there. They cost 2 koku apiece, so he makes them free. So I think he can lead up to 20 guys. This is 30. His experienced version can lead more. That unit is free, basically, as long as you pay his points, which is 122. So if you want a big chunk of bodies on the table that are kind of useless but look impressive in terms of numbers, Bayushi Hisa is your man. There's Shosuro Hametsu, and he can attach poison weapons at no cost, one poison weapons to his unit. But when his unit uses poison weapons, they gain an additional +1, so +3 damage until the end of the turn. And he also has fast strike. He counts as a ninja as well. I'm not sure if they actually created a figure for him, but you could use this one. I think he's officially Tasu, but he is a scorpion with a Yari. So he's an interesting option. Kachiko we already talked about. There's a guy named Marumo who's a cheap hero. Not too much to talk about except that once per battle he can make his unit cavalry, so they can move pretty fast. It's a nice little surprise to do with him. Bayushi Tangen is a guy who basically suicides himself to protect the rest of your unit. I believe this is him right here. And he jumps out and basically stops the charge of the opponent's unit and, I guess basically dies heroically so that they can't attack. He can do that from any edge of the formation, so that would be really useful, honestly, if you're getting flanked. And he jumps out and stops the flank attack for a turn. That could be decisive in the right situation. Bayushi Tasu, this guy with the spear that I already showed you, he's a cheap character with decent stats and has fast strike, so he'll hit first in the first round of combat with his spear. Not too much else to talk about with him. Yogo Asami is a courtier, and there she is, all dressed up to impress. She can add blackmail cards to your hand, and you start your tactical deck, and she can target enemy personalities within 18 inches, and she can become spent to reduce them by 1 strike until the end of the turn, but can't do that to creature, non-human, oni, or undead personalities. So most of your heroes are going to have 2 strikes, maybe a few have 3. It's going to be kind of a marginal situational ability. Bayushi Goshu is another courtier. He can do basically the same thing as her, except he can reduce honor loss that you have, or prevent the enemy from reducing honor loss. Those honor loss effects, unfortunately, are not very common in the game. You can tell that they're trying to implement some ideas from the card game in terms of how the Scorpion play, and I don't think they were fully realized in the miniatures game. Maybe they intended to expand on them and have room to work on them in the future, but it just didn't pan out here. And there's some other armies that have similar, what appear to be embryonic concepts that were never fully realized. So, turning to the units, what can we say about the units in general? In general, the Scorpion units are not very powerful in combat. They don't hit very hard. They're not particularly durable based on their plain stats. They do all have an ability that they can modify their modified initiative score by up to 2. And that means that you can often win initiative standoffs when you're trying to either get the charge in or make the other person move first so you can countercharge. You'll be able to take advantage of that. But again, it's only useful for maybe a few turns of the game, typically. And that's just kind of the situation with initiative, because the first couple turns initiative don't really matter, and then once everybody's engaged, initiative doesn't make too much of a difference, except for secondary or later engagements, which sometimes don't even happen. So if they're paying points for this modified initiative score modifier, it's probably not benefiting them greatly. They do have some cheap units. The Scorpion Strike are decent spearmen. The Crimson Legion are 6 points apiece, very cheap, but solid infantry. I mean, they're +0/+0, morale 6, so they're not doing anything special in combat, but that's why you give them things like poison weapons or give them a character that can hit harder. You can certainly put out a lot of warm bodies that are not terrible, but they're not great either. So the average melee guys are not great. The shooting in the army is basically done by your ninja bowmen. And the ninja bowmen are a really interesting unit. You can have up to, I think, 2 units, no more than 12 each. So you can have 24 total. Hard model to find, by the way. And not a lot of options for ninja bowmen out there, unfortunately. But they have a range of up to 24 inches. They are +1/+1 to hit, which isn't bad. They're skirmishers, so they're harder to hit back. They're -1 to hit from other ranged attacks anyway. And their Kiso is really interesting. Until the ninja bowmen have made a ranged attack or been engaged, they may not be targeted by enemy ranged attacks. Enemy units performing a ranged attack ignore them, drawing LOS through them as if they were not there, the turn after they have performed a ranged attack, or after becoming unengaged, the ninja bowmen may be targeted normally. So, even in the turn they shoot, they can't be shot back at until the next turn. They're really interesting. They're fairly maneuverable because they're skirmishers, and I like to put them maybe on the flanks, 2 small units. So those are really excellent. That's basically your shooting unless you're bringing in some allies. What about their heavy hitters? So for your heavy hitters, you've really got your House Guard over here, and you've got your Black Cabal. These House Guard are not bad, and part of the reason that they're not bad is that the rest of your units are not very good. So in most of the armies in Clan War, it seems like the House Guard is overpriced and not that impressive. For the Bayushi House Guard, they're kind of the exception just because by default, they're going to be your best troops on the table. They've got a ATN of 8, so they're hard to hit because they have Daisho. They have double weapons like dragons. They have and heavy armor. They morale level 4, so they're really good morale-wise. They have 2 wounds apiece, and they're +1/+1 to hit, which is respectable, but nothing special. 22 points a model, so they're not cheap. They have to be led by a leader with glory of at least 6, but they will not rout while the leader is unspent. As I said before, it'd be awesome if they didn't break, but not routing is good. You at least have a chance to bring them back if they do end up breaking. But you can only have up to 16 of them. So actually, this is not even illegal. I don't know why I painted up 20 of them, but I think that I really like the models. It's a really nice unit. And whoops, that would be an outtake, but we're not going to do outtakes, are we? That, I think they're really nice models. Very colorful. And there's Aramoro and Kachiko leading them. As only befits the second in command of the clan, or secretly the first in command, because Kachiko is really the brains behind the whole thing. So they're pretty strong. No special abilities other than that not routing thing. The Black Cabal are, first of all, cool because they're all in black. And they are ATN 7. They have no dachis, so they're +1/+1 to hit. No dachi is like a long two-handed sword. You would have wanted them to be +2 damage. That would have been nice, but they're only 15 points each. Morale level 5. So really solid unit for that cost. If they fail a morale test while broken, they remove 3 models as casualties and they do not rout. So again, another unit that even if they run away, they will not disappear off the table or basically become unrecoverable. So there's probably an argument to be made that because of those 2 units, you could have a pretty strong morale Scorpion army. Again, being broken is awful, so they're not prevented from that, but they are prevented from routing, which is admittedly worse. I like to buff them up with a melee character, drop some poison weapons on them maybe to give them +3 routed damage. You wait till poison, by the way, I think, pro tip, poison gives the whole unit +2 damage, or +3 if you have that special character. You want to wait till the turn when you're getting your rank bonus, because if you drop poison the turn you charge, your front rank's going to get +2 damage, but if you do it the turn after and you still got 2 ranks, that's going to be basically twice as many attacks, so you're going to get double the bang for your buck off of the poison weapons application. Quick aside on poison there. So those are your heavy hitters, really, your House Guard and your Black Cabal. Now we've got a lot of specialist signature units that we want to talk about. So continuing with our theme of ninjas, we have the Scorpion Assassins. Shadow Assassins, Scorpion Shadow Assassins. The Shadow Assassins kind of come in 2 varieties. You can have 1 unit of skirmishers, or you can have a ranked unit. So they can be melee troops if you want them to be. I'm not convinced that that's a great option, but it is a possibility. So these guys are 16 points apiece, which is not cheap. Only 1 wound each. ATN of 6, so they're easy to hit. They're +1/+1 in combat, which is really good for Scorpion. And there's one skirmishing unit you can have, and then any of the units can be given smoke pots. And in fact, sorry, they come with them for free. The smoke pots allow you to put down these templates. I'll read it to you so I don't make a mistake. Each model in the front rank of the models, or all models of skirmishing, may place a 2-inch smoke template in a forward 90-degree arc within 6 inches and within LOS. This happens in the special ability phase, by the way. The entire template must be within 6 inches of the model which placed it. Smoke templates remain in place until the end of the turn. So these guys can march down the field dropping a wall of smoke, preventing your opponents from shooting at guys you don't want to get shot up early in the game. That's really useful, and people find them very frustrating. And they have an infinite supply of the ammunition. It goes away at the end of the turn, but they have there's no limit to how many times they do it per game. Now, if you use them in either form, you should keep in mind that when entering an engagement as the defender, they all get +1 strike until the end of the turn. So if somebody charges a unit of 10 Shadow Assassins, thinking they're going to be easy to deal with, they're going to face 10 attacks from that front rank. So, interesting unit. You can only have 2 in your army. And no more than 12 if they're skirmishing, no more than 16 if they're not. If you wanted really to make a ninja-themed army and use these guys as melee, you could do it. It would take some work, And because of that ATN of 6, they are very fragile. But a good unit overall. Scorpion Claws. This might be my favorite unit. Okay. They never made a model, so I used the Mantis Mercenaries because they're equipped with all these like weird weapons. And the Scorpion Claws are supposed to have Yari. Excuse me. They are supposed to have the wheat farming implement, the Sai, which some of you might know from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I believe it is Raphael who uses the 2 Sai. And Sai is like a farming implement that's used as a weapon with 3 prongs on it. There was no unit of those ever made, so I used the Mantis Mercenaries instead. What do the Scorpion Claws do? So they're 14 points a model, ATN of 6, easy to hit, +1/+1, which is good. Morale 6, also good. And they can attach a poison weapon at no cost. And if you use a defensive tactical card on them, then they get an additional +1/+1 until the end of the turn. That's usually only going to be on the turn that they're charged, that you can do that. And, in addition, when entering the engagement as a defender, the attacking enemy unit loses all positive combat modifiers, including those provided by their profile. And so attack and damage may not be above +0 until the end of the turn. So these guys, you can put them in front of the most powerful unit in the game, unless they have a special rule that says it can't be reduced. There are a couple of personalities that have that. But units, monsters, whatever, they are going to have a hard time damaging the Scorpion Claws on the first turn. So, fantastic defensive unit. Not very expensive. You can have up to 2 of them. No more than 20 models a unit. Honestly, if I had the money, I would probably get myself another unit of them. Such a great unit. Love those guys. Another very unique unit for the Scorpion Army are the Straw Targets. You can see here, the first rank is the Straw Men, and the second rank are some samurai holding them up with sticks. Looks weird, right? Like, what are they doing? Well, the Straw Targets are designed to protect your army from ranged fire. They're only ATN 6, so they're easy to hit. In close combat, they're -1/-1, because apparently, you know, scarecrows are not good at fighting. Morale level 5, though, so they're not going to break very easily. And what happens with them is, when the enemy is determining a closest target for range attack, they're counted as being 6 inches nearer for all targeting purposes. Not for actual range, but basically you march them alongside your other units, they're going to count as being 6 inches in front, and they have to be shot at, unless somebody plays a special card. They are susceptible to fire, which makes sense. But any other ranged attacks that shoot at them have their totals reduced by half. And then any defense modifier for the unit is applied before the reduction. So they cost 9 points apiece. They are a very interesting idea. If you're playing against Crane or something like that, you're almost definitely going to want to have a unit of these. Between them and the Shadow Assassins dropping smoke, you can negate a lot of shooting for a good chunk of the game. So, they're an interesting option and very characterful for the Scorpion in terms of trying to, like, trick people. Now, what about the other units? We'll go over them real quick because, again, they don't have too many. Bayushi Ambushers are basically, how do I explain these guys? They're 12 points apiece. They don't do very much. They're +0/+0. ATN 6, easy to hit. Good morale. But basically, you can put trap cards in your deck. And I talked about those a bit with the Dragon Army. Trap cards are not very useful. You know, you've got to draw them from the deck. You've got to roll the dice. They don't give you that many damage dice. You can pay for additional damage for the ambusher unit. You only get 1 trap card per unit. So if you want to have 3 in the deck, which is the maximum, then you have to take 3 units at a minimum of 10 models a unit, so you need 120 points. It's basically the same thing as the Dragon Fire Blossoms, except they don't have grenades. So, not very attractive, in my opinion. The Bayushi Elite Spearmen are this strange creation of the Clan War game where you have these short-range javelin throwers. Like the other elite spearmen in, I don't know, like Lion and other armies, they have morale 5. They're +1 damage in close combat, and they're +1 attack and +1 damage in range. But remember, these are 10-inch range spears, and between 5 and 10 inches, you're at a -2 to hit. I don't know. I don't see the attraction based on the other options. We talked about the House Guard are really good. Black Cabal are very good. Crimson Legion, I think I talked about, they're very cheap, basically, for what they do. Scorpion Strike, they're spearmen, +1 to hit, morale 6, ATN 6, cost us 13 each, so they're not cheap. And first strike during close combat, but again, that's only in the first turn, so you get a rank of 5, you're going to get 5 shots off. They're not bad. They're not bad. The Shadow Assassins we talked about. Shosuro actors, this is another thing that I think is sort of a half-realized concept. You could basically... You basically pay 12 points apiece for guys who are +0, morale 5. So they're going to stick around, they're not going to hit hard, and they're ATN 6. And what this is going to allow you to do in kind of a meta sense is you can represent them by any 1-wound non-cavalry troop type, including 1 non-unique personality from any clan that is legal for the army. All models in the unit must have the standard infantry base. You can place props. You can place props within view, such as force cards, profiles to support the facade. The unit fights with its own profile, but may add a ranged attack to support the act. So these guys are really, really funny. I mean, it's really for the lulz. Like, oh look, I have a unit of Crane archers allied. Aren't you scared? You put them on the table. You painted them up as Crane, and oh, lo and behold, they're actually Shosuro actors, since they cost a lot less, but they're also not anywhere near as good. So, kind of a fun option to bring into it. It's very Scorpion-like. You'd have to really put some thought into whether or not it's worth your while, but a fun option nonetheless. The Shosuro Spy we talked about in the personalities. No, I think we didn't. The Shosuro Spy, so I think of him as a personality, but the Shosuro Spy is an excellent addition to the army. It's expensive at 50 points, and what you do is you get to place a model hidden within an enemy unit. And so what you're going to do is note the target unit on a piece of paper. So the opponent doesn't know. You don't actually need models. And you can only put 1 in each unit. But when that unit makes a test, you can perform an action as the Shosuro actor player. You can go second. But you can cancel a Grim Determination or impose a -2 modifier to the test. And then it has to be made immediately after you do that. So nobody can respond to the Shosuro Spy's play. And then after that, you roll to see if he's revealed. And a 7, 8, 9, or 10, you pass. So 7+ you pass. Lower than a 7, the Shosuro Spy is destroyed. And the enemy gains 1 victory point for that. You can have 4 in the army, which if you did that would be 200 points, would be 10% of your points in an army. But that could be really crippling to an opponent. I've only ever played 1. They're fun. To have 4 out there could really disturb your opponent's plans. So the Shosuro Spy is a really cool option. Give that some thought. As always with these videos, I have limited experience with this game, and if you played the Scorpion back in the day, or you're playing them now and you have some ideas on how to build the army, or you have different ideas about what are good units and what are bad units, feel free to let me know in the comments. I would love to hear it, and I'd love everybody else to be able to benefit from that. Talking about items for these guys, you're going to really, as usual, kind of definitely want the Fan of Command, because you are going to have the lowest honor unless you're Shadowlands, which means you're going to draw 1 card a turn. And again, that's just crippling. You really want to be able to draw 2 cards. Your cards are so important in the Scorpion army, because you want to play Blackmail, you want to play things like that. And we'll talk about the cards in a minute. Hopefully I don't forget. I'll put them right here to remind myself. In terms of other options, I looked through briefly. Again, if anybody else has thoughts, love to hear them. The Broken Sword of the Scorpion is not very good. It allows you to have +1 leadership to your leader. They're considered a Kolot and a ninja, for what that's worth. And once per turn, the personality's unit can perform a complex maneuver as a free maneuver. meh, I guess. Because you don't have a lot of hitting power, I turn more toward the items that would give you hitting power. For example, Fukushu, the Blood Sword, giving you +1/+1 in close combat, and Frenzy, which is going to allow your whole unit to hit hard on the turn that it charges. That's pretty good. You can also trigger a fear effect, except you do have to try to engage. So put it on a unit that you want to fight, and you'll probably be happy. That's a pretty interesting one. The Obsidian Blade can only be attached to a tainted personality. You know, maybe you put that on Undead Shoju. That would be kind of fun. Or the Katana of Fire, +1/+1, +2 modifier for damage during a duel. Good against elementals, so if you're fighting Phoenix. So let me know what you think. None of these really jump out at me so much, other than the Fan of Command, which you're really going to want to draw cards, because you need them in your army. So speaking of cards in your army, let's go through the cards for a minute. First of all, let's talk about Blackmail, which I put at the bottom of the stack. Here we go. So several of your personalities, such as Bayushi Aramoro, allow you to insert up to 3 of these in your deck. As I understand it, you can only have a total of 3 of any one card, so I don't think you can make half your deck Blackmail, and you probably wouldn't be able to use it that much anyway. But what this is a special order, and there's a lot of text here, but basically you place this, you attach it to a personality. It counts towards their limit of attached tactical cards, and this card basically jams up their tactical card attachment space. As a special action, a personality who has the card attached to them can discard it. However, they become dishonored and lose 3 honor for each Blackmail that is discarded. Anytime this card is discarded, it's placed in the discard pile of the originating player. It ignores the maximum of 3 cards per tactical deck, but is limited to 3 cards per personality that it allows it to use. So you guess you could take 6 or 9 of these if you wanted to. Now, what you do with these, by the way, is you think, okay, Brian, that sounds good. I gum up the tactical attachment spot for the personality, but how am I going to make them? They're never going to want to discard Blackmail because it's going to dishonor them, and lose honor, and the dishonoring is going to make all of their personality attributes negatives to their unit. That's what being dishonored does, by the way. That's a whole other subject, but look up dishonor in the rules and you'll find that it's not good. Well, that's what your Aramoro special ability is for, because he can make you discard a card from any location. So I talked about the combo of having Kachiko look at the hand, you figure out what card you want to discard, and you use Aramoro to discard it. Well, the other thing you can do, though, is hand these Blackmail cards out like candy to all of the opponent's characters, and then Aramoro forces them to discard it. So you're going to be able to, if you can, dishonor their personalities and really reduce their effectiveness. This is something they do not want to see. By the way, there's one character in the game you can't do this on. There's only one, I think, which is Matsu Imura, the War Cat guy. So keep that in mind. He can't be dishonored, which is too bad because that would wreck his unit, which is probably why they forbade it. So Blackmail is an important card for you, and you can put multiples of them. I've never put more than 3, but you could put a lot. Maybe I'll try that sometime. Now, along with Blackmail, you have some honor-based cards. So Honor Betrayed is a special action. I got 2 of them here. I don't know why. Honor Betrayed is special action. Target a dishonored enemy personality that is leading a unit. Once during this turn, when that personality's unit must make a test and the target personality is still dishonored, invoke Honor Betrayed. That test suffers a negative modifier equal to the personality's printed personal honor. So in addition to whatever other modifiers there are, which, by the way, like their leadership is already going to be negative if they're blackmailed, then you play Honor Betrayed on it, and now their personal honor is another negative. You're going to be able to crush a unit on a morale check if you can get that combination off. So that's the thing with Scorpion, is you need to set up your plays with the cards, and they don't always come when you want, and you can't always time them right, but if they do, it's mean. Here's another card that you can trigger off of Blackmail. You dishonor your clan. Target a dishonored personality, and there's some limitations as to who can be targeted. Their army loses 5 honor. Now remember, if you drop an army below 0, the whole army is taking negative morale modifiers to their morale check. So that's kind of cool. And if this personality is leading a unit, the unit must immediately take a morale check. And if it succeeds, there's no additional effect. But if it fails, the unit becomes broken. If the test fails, the personality can commit seppuku and be removed as a casualty to return the unit to ready status. The unit need not make a morale test for that. But so you give the opponent 2 bad choices, right? You've played the blackmail on them. You then play dishonor your clan, and they now have a choice of taking a morale test, which is probably going to be at a significant negative because the person is dishonored, and they could let that happen. Maybe they'll pass, maybe they won't. Or they could kill their character. Now, you're going to get the victory points for killing that character. So this is a very characterful Scorpion card. You got 2 bad choices, which one you want to take. All based off of blackmail. Talking about ninjas. So we have ninjas in our army here in Scorpion Land. Pretty much nobody else does. What about those ninjas? Well, first of all, you have a shadow passes. So this can be added to your tactical deck if you have Kolat or ninja personality, and it must be attached to them before it's used. The target personality immediately after that personality has a special action or order. And then that special action or order is canceled. So basically you attach this to a ninja like Bayushi Shu, and then somebody else plays a special action or special order. You use the shadow passes because it's a ninja action. It cancels their ability. If it was a card, it's returned to their hand. And that target personality cannot generate further special actions during the phase. Immediately after playing this card, the attaching Kolat or ninja personality becomes spent. So this one's maybe a little bit costly in that it spends a personality, but it is an option. Here's probably my favorite ninja option, the Ninja Assassin card. Now, this costs Koku to add to your armies, costs points. 90 for 1, 160 for 2, or 210 for 3. So if you want the maximum chance of drawing the Ninja Assassin card, you're going to, in a 2,000 point army, you're going to pay 10% of your army cost to ensure that you have a decent chance to draw the card. So it's not a guarantee, but this card may only be attached to a ninja personality and must be attached before it is played. So same idea. Target an enemy personality within 18 inches in LOS. This may not target an airborne personality. Roll a die. If the result is greater than the glory of the target personality, the personality is removed as a casualty. Boom. You killed them. Let's say they have a glory 5. If you roll a 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, they're dead. Otherwise, there's no effect. Once one of your Ninja Assassin cards has been resolved, discard all subsequent cards and immediately draw a replacement card. If negated when played, it has not been resolved. So you can only do this attack once per game. But if you do, you could just kill a personality with a single die roll. That's pretty cool. Did we talk about Matsu Imura earlier? Yeah, I have a little grudge against him. This would work really well against him. By the way, Bayushi Shu, if you have a ninja effect going off, gives a +1 to any dice roll involving ninja effects. So, if you're using that Ninja Assassin card, you have Aramoro in your army, your chances of killing that person just went up by 10%, +1 to the roll. Fun combo when you can get it off. So, those are some of the special tactical cards that you want to be aware of, making a Scorpion army. So, let me talk about sample army lists. I didn't print one up in particular, but what I've played before is I usually have a core unit with Aramoro and Kachiko, either in the House Guard or in the cheaper but less durable Black Cabal. Crimson Guard to make up numbers. I like to put Maramo with them to give them a cavalry ability, get them up into a flanking position. They don't have to do that. You could want to give them poison if you can. Always take the Scorpion Claws as a defensive anchor. I like to take 2 units of the Bowmen, Ninja Bowmen, which can't be attacked until they attack. Generally, I take the Scorpion Strike as just a standard melee option. I haven't really used the straw targets much, and I usually take at least 1 unit of the Shadow Assassins in skirmish mode to throw out that smoke barrage and negate the most deadly shooting of the opponent's army. But there are a lot of different characters to try to see what their emphasis does for you. You can have a ninja focused army build. You can ignore ninjas completely. You can have undead shoju leading, a horror themed army of the Scorpion. There's a lot that you can do, but generally I'll take about 5 units, 4 to 5 melee formed units. Almost never leave home without the Aramoro Kachiko combo. That might be a personal weakness of mine. And always keep a couple of ninja units in my army as well for the theme. So usually I'm trying to get off some of those tricks, especially getting rid of the opponent's best cards, Grim Determinations. I want to get out of there. Charges, I want to get out of there. Because when we get hit that hard by a charge card and with someone like Lion who's already hitting with a high damage bonus, you're going to take casualties that you can't sustain. So that's my general idea for a Scorpion Army build. There are many other possibilities. I'd love to hear your ideas for Scorpion Army. Did you play this back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you ran Scorpion? What did you like to run? What are some of the tricks that I missed? As always, I'd love to hear from you. I really enjoy playing this army. It's probably my second favorite after the Crab. They're kind of underdogs, I think, because their power level at base is so low, but if the stars align and you get the cars you need, if you make some smart maneuvering, you use your Shadow Assassin Smoke to negate enemy shooting, you use your Kachiko Aramoro combo to get rid of some of their best cards, you can have a lot of fun with this army, and they can be surprisingly effective. Other times they will fail to do that, and they will get crushed in close combat, and that's just the price of being the Scorpion clan. So I hope you had a good time watching this video. I hope you get to go play some Clan War. Maybe my collection has inspired you to paint up some of your figures. It's not that hard. Spray paint them black, start dry brushing gray, get those base colors on there. You can do it too. And I hope to see some of your work sometime, either on the Facebook group or here on YouTube. So that's it for the Ludomancer's Vault this time. We hope to see you soon.